Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Travel and Tourism Podcast, my first season. My guest today worked for Club Med from 1997 to 1998 as a geo nurse. She worked in both Sandpiper and Paradise Island. Fun fact, she went to Club Med Playa Blanca on vacation in 1997 during the season I was there, and we are not sure if we remember one another. Fun fact number 2, and she'll probably kill me for saying this, but she is one of, if not the most, photogenic ex-geos I have ever seen. She's from New York, now lives in Sarasota, Florida. Please help me welcome the one, the only, Sheera Ashely. Hey, Sheera, how are you?
Hi, Greg. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Like, I checked my math here. I actually asked you to be on the show more than a year ago. So it took almost a darn injury of yours, I think, to agree. And I don't know if you want to share your injury. You don't have to, but I think this is why, right? Is because, you know what? You figured I'm laid up.
Yeah, exactly.
Greg invited me again. You know, is this why? What happened?
Yes, basically, I missed a step and broke my ankle. So my social life has turned into doctor's appointments and Zoom calls.
Yeah, and one guy with a podcast who's been begging to have you on, right?
Yeah, see you.
Yeah.
Me down.
Okay. Well, thank you. All right, that's what I do. Okay, so I'm really happy that you're here and agreeing to do this. So thanks very much for that.
You're welcome. I appreciate it.
Okay, so let's do a bit of backstory on you. I think you're from Staten Island, but I'm just curious how you got into nursing or why you wanted to get into nursing. Can we start there?
Yeah, I guess I was actually a biology major first, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. An old boyfriend of mine, his mom was a nurse, or she's retired now, and a lactation consultant. And one day, just hanging out at her house, I was kind of flipping through an obstetrical nursing book, and I just always found biology really interesting, just fascinating. And she had just said, you should apply for the nursing program and see what happens. And I did, and I wound up getting in. I'm pretty sure I was the last applicant they chose. They took 80 out of 2,000, so I'm pretty sure I was number 80. And it's just worked out.
80 out of 2,000, you said?
Yeah, the year I applied, they took 80 students out of the 2,000 that applied, and only 40 actually graduated.
And you're one of the 40, right?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, it was a long time ago.
Well, also more impressive, I think you told me you were working full time while going to nursing school. Is that correct?
I was, yeah. It was a long time ago, though. I was young. I had more energy.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, you must have been, because obviously you work a 9 to 5 or whatever, and then you got to go use your brain to study. Like, you're not taking Bobo English courses like I am right now. Okay. You're doing biology and I assume chemistry and whatnot, right?
Yes. Well, at the time I used to work like in restaurants. So it was like evening hours. I'd go to school in the day and then work in the evening. And
okay, got it. And do photogenic waitresses make a lot in tips too?
Probably more nowadays here in Sarasota than in Staten Island back in the early 90s.
Okay. And so what was it that I guess led you to Club Med? You must have saw commercials, and I think a girl you grew up with had an aunt that was a nurse for Club Med. Is that right?
Yeah, I do remember seeing the commercials just growing up. And then a friend of mine, it was either her aunt or her cousin, was a nurse for Club Med. And at the time, I just really was wanting to retire, and I couldn't picture spending the next 40 some odd years doing the same thing that I was doing then. That same relationship that I was in, whose mom encouraged me to become a nurse, ended after a lot of years. So I just kind of wanted to recreate my life. So she had mentioned it, and then I went on to Playa Blanca on vacation just to get out of town and have some fun and see what Club Med really was. And we had a great time. And on a whim, I applied.
All right. So this Playa Blanca, and you remember some of the geos, right? Because that was a very, very good team that was there that winter. I'm not counting myself. I'm counting Jeff Green, 2-time MVP.
I met Jeff. Yes, I met Jeff Green on that trip. I mean, we just hit it off. Really fun guy. He's hilarious and very into music. as am I. He was lighting and DJing.
Good at volleyball. So, Jeff, if you're listening to this, hit me up. I'd love to have you on, but I'm tired of getting rejected by everyone. So it's better if you reach out to me. So, but yeah, and
Yeah.
you remember the chief of village, Lulu? Does she stand out for you?
Yes, I do remember her. I don't remember having any particular interactions with her, but I do remember that it was a female. I didn't realize how rare that was at the time.
Yeah,
And she had a lot of energy and it was a lot of fun.
yeah,
Yeah, we had a great time.
and
It was definitely a lifestyle change.
yeah, well, exactly. And I just want to say, Sheera, in my defense, like I did probably notice you, but I had a girlfriend there. Like I'm a dummy. Like I go to 2.5 years in Columbus, Ohio. I was single. I go to a major singles resort. I immediately get a girlfriend. So
Yeah,
I probably saw you, but yeah, I couldn't, go anywhere near anyone.
yes,
so,
I know how Club Med
so
relationships
yeah,
work.
so yeah, basically I'm a dummy. All right, and
Yeah.
now, and so for your, yeah, you basically you called up like 1-800 Club Med. You actually flew to Sandpiper on your own dime for your interview, correct?
Yeah, it was completely on a whim. I had actually gone out to California because I had applied to a an accelerated master's program in Long Beach, California. So my sister and I went out there and I was like, but it would be so much more fun. And I called 1-800 Club Med back then. That was just how the advice I was given, and spoke to somebody. Like, they answered the phone, and then someone called me back, and the big interviews they used to do like in Manhattan or whatever, there were none happening at the time, but I guess they needed nurses, so they asked if I would be willing to come to Sandpiper. And my grandmother at the time lived in Florida, so I said, yeah, I could probably do that. So I wound up making it a whole weekend. I spent the weekend with my grandmother and then just went over to Club Med for the interview, and that was it. It worked out.
Well, at the same time, I think you were a maid of honor at a wedding, and on the third, and
Yes.
you left on the fifth, something like this.
Yes, that's true. So when I went down and I applied, they were like, "How fast can you get here?" And I just was committed to being in this wedding, and I said, "The wedding is on the 3rd. I'm good after that. I just have to be home for that." And I did. I think I left on the 5th or the 6th, like a couple of days later. I think they had an interim nurse fill in for a month until I could get there. They were super accommodating.
Did you have visions of the Caribbean? Like when you heard Sandpiper, were you like, oh no, or like, why not?
No, yeah, because I had gone to Sandpiper already for the interview, I knew what to expect there. And when I spoke to them, if I remember correctly, it was a lot of years ago. They had said there were a couple of different places that they needed people, and because Florida is in the US, you needed a US license, and I had a Florida nursing license. So that was kind of like everything kind of fell into place. So I wasn't disappointed that I wasn't going to the Caribbean. I was just happy that I got to up and leave, just get out of town, easy way to move away.
Did you say you had a Florida nursing license?
Mm-hmm.
How?
Because my grandparents were in Florida. And
Oh, okay.
yeah. So back then they didn't have it. Nowadays there's compact licenses where you can get one license that's for multiple states. So back then I had my New York license, and then I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. So I had Florida and a California license. So yeah, that's kind of how that happened.
Okay. You get the job. You have Sandpipers with, I believe, Greg Schneider is the chief of village at this time.
Yeah, Greg was the chief, and the chief of sports was Teach.
Teach. Okay. And who does you report to? Was it the Gestion? Was that your immediate supervisor?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Christine, who I absolutely adore. And thankfully, social media makes it really easy to stay in touch with people who you wouldn't normally be able to stay in touch with.
Yeah. And so did any, I guess, Club Med culture shock? Because I guess you're like, what were the major cases you're dealing with here at Sandpiper? Was a lot of kids coming to see you?
Yes, definitely. Like sports injuries, little kids, ant bites, millions of ant bites, for the love of God, Florida and the ants. Little kids getting sick because they're kids. Back, I don't know. I'm not sure if it changed, but back then you could have babies as young as 4 months. And a lot of European families, French families, would come for their summer vacation with babies. So it was just kind of ear infections and fevers and croup. And then a lot of sports injuries generally were the most common.
I mean, amongst the GMs or GOs?
Both.
Okay.
Both. I do remember, I want to say it was Kendra's morning in the infirmary.
Okay, so who's Kendra?
Kendra, she's my soul sister. So Kendra was the other nurse when in Sandpiper that season. And I can still remember the taxi pulling up in front and seeing her stand there, waiting for me. And I knew that's she was waiting for me. And we just immediately clicked. And all these years later, we just have stayed friends.
So she was there before you?
Yeah, she was there before me. I think maybe a month or two. It was a little while because she was with another nurse who wound up leaving. And that's when they wanted me right away. But they brought in that interim person so that I could get there.
So she was extra happy to see you.
Yeah, for sure. To have another person. And we were roommates and.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know if back then, 97, did they put your like room number, like, because I don't know if you had phones in the room, like, so did they contact you by walkie-talkie or?
And we had a pager.
Oh yeah, pagers.
Yes.
What's that? I don't know what that is. What is that? Okay.
Yeah, we had a pager, and we did have phones in the room, so they would call us. Whoever was on call, they would call us, or they would use the pager. So yeah, that was back in the day. But the Sandpiper rooms were nice because it was like 2 separate bedrooms and a big bathroom. Other than the air conditioning leaking, it was not terrible accommodations. We had our own bicycle and our own golf cart to get us where we needed to go in the middle of the night.
Okay. And do you have any like stories or anecdotes from this season? Like, did you have to do shows or?
Did a lot of shows. I grew up dancing, so that was one of my favorite things about Club Med was being in all the shows. It's just something as an adult you don't really get to do, so it was really fun for me to get to do all that again. And I was in a lot of shows, and being tiny, and I was always in some crazy costume post up somewhere. My New York accent, they always made me Fran Drescher for every function.
Wait, excuse me, Sheera. I don't hear any accent. Did you lose it or?
Yes and no. My dad was actually he used to do voiceovers, and he's a music producer. So growing up, he would always correct our accent. He really doesn't speak with one. My mom sure did. Goodness.
Okay.
And then I was out of New York for so long, and my ex-husband barely spoke English when we met. So being very succinct and clear was important. So.
Okay. Well, you said your father was in music, so I think we should point out now that Sheera means the song in Hebrew, correct?
Yes. Sheera is Hebrew. It means song in Hebrew, and my parents in the early 70s felt that it was just the perfect name for the songwriter, music producers.
Okay.
Child.
Right. You don't sound like you share that. Is it because of that cartoon that came out later? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, well, I grew up with a bunch of,
by the way.
Yeah. I grew up with a bunch of, Michelles and Jennifers. So it was challenging growing up in New York City with an unusual name. And then I met Kendra, who had a similar background.
Yeah. So Kendra and Sheera, you guys become best buds. So I want to know, because I love this photo, and it's probably a very famous photo now. Whose idea was it for that nurse photo shoot?
I really don't remember.
Okay, that's what Kendra said. That's what Kendra said.
It might have been the photographer. I really don't remember. Back that season, they also shot a commercial that was like a Club Med / Coca-Cola commercial, and we had to like pose on the beach, like just to be extras in the background. And at some point, right around all of we both had a white bikini, and I think it was probably the photographer, I really don't remember, was like, oh, we need to do nurse photos. So my version of that picture is the close-up. Kendra's version is the the full body.
Oh yeah. God bless her for that one. So yeah, okay. So let me just say,
Seriously.
let me just tell. Okay, so listeners, yes, if you haven't gone to the My First Season Facebook page yet, make sure you go there after listening to this episode so you can see what we're talking about. It's a lovely, lovely photo, and probably one of my personal favorites. And even though I never worked with Sheera or Kendra briefly, we don't remember each other either at Columbus. But yeah, it's a very nice. So I'm not the first to say you're me saying you're photogenic. You probably heard this your whole life, right? And I'm sure Club Med photographers are always trying to take pictures of you, right?
I I don't know that I'm that photogenic. I think back then I was just
Yes, you
young
are.
and
If no one's ever told you, let
yeah,
me be the first. You are photogenic. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I don't know.
So
We were young and cute. It was easy back then. Didn't really think about it. But yes, that picture did become like a thing all these years, and we were known as the nurses because after we were done working for Club Med, Kendra and I, our whole lives kind of paralleled for a while. We had unexpected pregnancies at the same time. Like our youngest kids are, well, her twins and my youngest are like a couple of months apart. We got divorced around the same time. And then we started doing Club Med, like XGO things and just mommy dates because she lives in Connecticut and I'm here in Florida. So we would kind of get together and it just became a thing. And then the last time we were in Turks, just this last fall, we took a picture, everybody in their glow t-shirts, and ours all say the nurses because there's a bunch of nurses that we work with and we're friends with that didn't all work for Club Med, but they will travel with us. So it just became kind of just a funny thing.
what was the best part about being a geo nurse?
The schedule, probably we would be on for a day and then off for a day, or day off would be all the VV and the shows and the what have you, but it wasn't the 7 days a week, dusk till dawn kind of job requirements that some of the other services have.
Did you have to go to was there a picnic and did you have one of you have to go on it?
Not Sandpiper. When I worked in Paradise, I was always the picnic nurse because the nurse that I worked with then hated the picnics. So I
Okay.
did every picnic.
Okay. Well, you let me know when we can move to Paradise. Like you can tell me, whatever you want about whatever you remember from Sandpiper. So like
Yeah.
you tell me what I don't know. Like, do you have any stories or anecdotes you wanted to share?
In Sandpiper, there's probably
Yeah.
a billion. I'm not sure all of them are okay to share.
Okay. Yeah,
Um,
just the appropriate one, Sheera. Okay.
yeah.
Dang it. I should have
We did
reminded you.
have a lot of fun. It was a close team. Some of the friendships that I made there lasted for years and years and years. It was really great. I do remember a couple of crazy things happening, like someone lost the key to their room, so they thought it would be a good idea to scale the wall to their third floor window and try to get in that way, and fell and then went to bed anyway. And the next morning, I think it was Kendra who was in the office, had to take him to the hospital because he actually broke his neck. Lived, survived, but weird
Okay.
things can happen.
Did he earn the nickname Spider-Man after this or
Yes, he
anything?
did.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Well, it's not. Yeah. Let's not
yeah,
say the name then, because
right.
I
Yeah.
was joking, but okay.
Yeah, no, literally for anytime anybody saw him, we'd shoot him with a web, start singing
Oh,
Spider-Man. It
okay.
was, it was
Ooh, they
silly.
stick with you. They stick with you.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Certain things you just can't. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah. You tell me whatever you want to tell me. You can tell me, or we can move to Paradise. It's totally up to you.
No.
You're in charge of this interview.
Yeah, I nothing in particular other than just the usual day-to-day insanity of Sandpiper.
But at some point, Matt
Hmm.
Smith from HR calls you. I guess he was in charge of nurses, right, or something.
Yes, he was. I just actually talked to him when we were in Turks in October. Steve Riley was on the phone with Matt, and it was the first time I've talked to him in like 30 years, but it was so nice to just say hi. But yeah, so I left Sandpiper. I Instead of doing another village right away, I went home because we were heading up to the holidays. So I went home and spent the holidays in New York, and Matt called me and he wanted me to go to Paradise Island. Again, a nurse had left and they needed somebody. So I said, sure, I'll do that. Like, why not? So up and left and went to Paradise.
Well, at least you got the holidays, to be home for the holidays and then
I
escape
did. I
the.
literally went to Paradise, like, I don't know, January 3rd, like right after
Perfect. You missed the roughest days of I actually come to think of it, yes, you leave Sandpiper in October, so you actually missed the
Yeah.
two hardest days ever in Club Med.
Yep.
Christmas and New Year's. Wow, lucky. And then you
Yes,
get
I
to
did.
avoid winter in New York by being
Yeah,
in
I
the
planned it
Bahamas.
well. I planned it well. I had saved up a ton of money so that I could just do
What?
it as I
No,
wanted. Yeah.
as a first season, Sheera, you're supposed
No,
to leave with
no,
nothing. Okay.
no.
Actually, you're supposed to owe them money when you leave. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Pre-Club Med, working as
okay.
a nurse, I had saved up
Okay.
lots of money.
Oh, okay. Understood.
So
Okay.
I could just travel. So I worked for Club Med for a while, then I traveled and like visited family and friends for the holidays, and I went back to Club Med. So yeah, gosh, those were good years.
Yeah, right.
Being a mom with 4 kids, like nothing is about me ever. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Aren't you glad you did it? Right. I mean, come
Yes,
on.
I am. I wouldn't have these kids if I didn't.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, you get to Paradise. You're with probably one of my favorite chiefs of all time, Jean-Pierre Grand, who was my chief my first season. So was JJ the chief of sport here?
He
Is
was.
this season?
Yeah.
Was Freddie Birmingham there? It's that picnic. Do you remember Freddie from Montreal at all, or did he
I
come late?
I do know Freddie. I've met him at a bunch of
Okay.
XGOs, but he was not there at the time.
Oh, okay.
Funnily enough, I arrived at Paradise, and the person who used to do the picnics was Jeff Green.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes.
So that's where he went.
Yeah. So I had, I met him in Playa, and then a year later, I was working in Paradise, and he was there. And
Okay.
he was one of my best friends, and we keep in touch to this day, on and on.
So you got to do the picnic when you were a nurse. You got to go on the picnic.
Yes.
And,
so as the nurse, of course, you have to stay sober. So everybody, we would go out to the picnic.
Okay.
Yes. So we would we would head out to, well, the first thing I would have to do in the morning was make a giant vat of sangria, which I can make a mean sangria.
Yeah, me too. It's fun making it, right? You're stirring it, with an oar of a canoe,
Yeah, it is fun. Yeah. So I used to make this giant vat of sangria, and then we would load up the boat and we would head out to the island. And back then, Lisa was the land sport GO that did the picnics. Jeff and I were up top doing the actual food picnic part, and it was a lot of fun. Lisa and I still stay in touch too, thanks to social media. Her son is like killing it as a young actor. I think he's like 13 or 14 now. He's older, but getting older, but he is all over the place. All over the place.
Which Lisa are we talking about? Like who's land sports?
Or yes, Lisa Land Sports.
What name did she go by? Gosh,
I don't even remember what her maiden name is, honestly.
It's probably Land Sports.
Yes, but right, nobody had a last name.
That's right. That's right.
Nobody has a last name. I don't know. But
Sheera Nurse. Come on.
Yes, exactly. So she was Land Sports at the time. Gorgeous redhead, just so much fun, from Montreal.
Really?
And yeah, we wound up reconnecting, like social media, or back when Skype was a thing. Being an OB nurse, like I wasn't always an OB nurse, but once I came home and like had a real job and whatever, I got into obstetrics, which was always my thing. Anybody who was pregnant or having a baby or breastfeeding will reach out to me to this day, which is, I love. It's what I do. So when she was pregnant, she had reached out, we were talking, and we reconnected, and that baby has grown up to do all sorts of really cool things in film and TV. And yeah, you can look him up on Facebook. You'll see all sorts of stuff, or Instagram. That's how I keep track of what he's doing next. Gorgeous little boy, and he's a brilliant actor. Very happy for her. But back then, Lisa and Jeff and I would, Julie. We would head out to the picnics. And then once we were heading back, then I could start drinking because I would no longer be the nurse on.
That's right.
So I would have my own. There are some pictures from those parties.
Okay. Yeah. Which sadly I can't include here, listeners, but Sheera was kind enough to give me a whole slew. Like, I love the one with you as Ariel and the Little Mermaid. It was like, you looked exactly like Ariel, right? Like, people told you this, I guess.
I used to be called the redheaded nurse. My hair is actually very dark, but I used to make it red.
Oh, really? Okay. But that's who you were in that photo, right? Like on the okay.
Yes.
Yeah. That photo I have, people. Don't worry. All right. So Paradise, what can you tell me? Who else was on this team? Because I knew JJ was Chief of Sport, Jean-Pierre. There were other big names on this team, weren't there?
Jeff was there shortly after I left is when Steve Riley came in as the chief of village, but I didn't know him then. I know him now and we are good friends. I knew Amy from Sandpiper. She wound up going to Paradise, but after I had left, and she met and married Kiwi.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. So Kiwi's from Montreal, right?
Yes. I want to say they live in California, though.
Okay.
And they've been married forever. And when that's where I met my ex-husband in Paradise.
Yeah, he was a sailing geo, right?
Yes, he was he was with Club Med for years. Paradise was his first American zone village, and he was sailing, and then he left. Like, we had initially met. It didn't actually care for him.
Yes, this is the part of the story I like, because almost every couple I interview, it was sparks and fireworks, and you're like, no, I thought he was a bit of a jerk, right? Something like that.
Yeah. Okay. He walked up to me at the bar and he was like, "Who are you?" And I just pointed to my name tag and said, "Who are you?" And he pointed to his name tag. Who is this guy? And then I didn't see him again. He was just gone. And then a couple of maybe a month, 2 months later, he came back. I guess his season had ended. I didn't know anything about it. And then they brought him back, and he was a transportation geo at that time.
Okay. Oh, okay. I see. And then, but at some point, opposites attract, I guess, something like that. Blah, blah, blah.
Well, he came back, and he was friends with my friend Stephanie. And Stephanie was like, he can come off a little arrogant, but he's actually a really nice guy once you get to know him. So I'm like, oh, fine, whatever. And we had all gone out of the club one night over to Nassau. And sometimes when people come into the club like on a day pass, and you have to be nice to them. Like, that's your job, is to be friendly and nice and have fun, right? But when you're not in the club, sometimes they could be a little more aggressive. And it's a common geo thing where if somebody doesn't seem comfortable, you'll kind of save them. And I've done that many times. Many times people have done it for me, where you'll just walk up and grab somebody or kiss somebody and pretend that you're together when you're not really. So he came up and handed me a drink and said, here, babe, whatever. And I was like, oh, thank you. Or it was nice to see you. And I walked away from the aggressive guy, and Pierre and I went and sat at the bar, and I was like, thank you. And he was like, man, like, he was super aggressive. I was like, yeah, that was uncomfortable. And then we started talking. And then from then on, we just, I don't know, from like that night to 6 months later, we were married. Like, I don't really know how that all happened. I think I fell asleep.
Well, I take a little offense here, Sheera. In 10 years, I never had a female or a male geo come up and pretend we were together and kiss me. Okay. So I'm a little, disappointed here now, because I didn't know this was a thing.
Well, maybe because you were in a relationship. Nobody was allowed.
Not always. I was only in couple at singles resorts. Okay. I spent
well, see, that was the thing.
A lot of time alone and not non-singles resorts.
Yeah. So when you're in a singles resort,
like a dummy,
a little bit different. Yeah. Yeah. I don't remember ever needing saving in Sandpiper either, but
oh, well, Paradise always had that weird designation, right? It wasn't family and it wasn't singles, right? Or was it singles back then? Or was it just couples, honeymooners?
It was adults. So you'd have a lot of couples, and they had that gorgeous old house that people would do like honeymoons at.
Yes.
The mansion in the back. Such a gorgeous property. Everything about it was absolutely perfect. But it was always adults. So you'd get a lot of groups. Actually, Jean-Pierre took the sign down because our number used to be up by the infirmary. The infirmary sat between this chief of village's office and the massage therapist, which was fantastic because anytime Gary would get new oils, he would come over and be like, here, can I test this out? Absolutely. Feel free to massage my feet, my shoulder, whatever you want. Let's try out your new essential oils.
Yeah,
So that was fantastic.
Yeah,
And
shout
then
out Gary. Gary, I worked with him at Columbus. A great guy.
yeah, super sweet guy. And then next door was Jean-Pierre. So Christopher was just a baby then, would come and hang out in the office all the time, little sweet, tiny toddler. But one particular trip, there were a group of guys, and sometimes people could be super aggressive and they would make just inappropriate comments about how at night you'll have to come to my room if I'm sick, and like scary things like nobody will ever find you. I was like, okay, I'm not comfortable with any of this. And Jean-Pierre pulled our number down and he said, nope, they can go to security if anybody needs anything, so that they couldn't contact us directly anymore. And then some of the tennis pros who knew this were going on would misfire shots during drills.
Okay, like serves, like really,
yes,
really hard serves. Good.
Yeah,
Good.
to the neck. Here and there.
To the neck. Okay, thought you were gonna say to the groin, but okay, neck hurts just as much.
Neck, face, yeah.
If you're a guy and you've ever been hit in the Adam's apple, it hurts just as much as down below. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, more. I definitely felt well protected that season.
Yeah, this is interesting because I was actually at Jean-Pierre and Kimmy's wedding on the beach. So here it is, my first season. I think this is totally normal. Oh, every chief of village gets married on the beach in a lovely ceremony. So you fast forward 3 years later. So I didn't know they had was their baby born at Paradise? Like how old was he when you?
He was about a year
okay.
old then. Okay. Yeah, he was a little over a year, around a year. He was walking, not really talking much, just a sweet little dude. But he used to come and hang out in my office all the time because it was right next door.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Sweet.
And then what else happens in Paradise, your time there, January to May 98?
Well,
did you think it was going to be your last season? Or you were ready for it to be?
I really didn't know. At that point in time, I was very much wherever the wind blows me. And I try to keep that mindset still. Like wherever I'm meant to be, I'm gonna go and pay attention to this, what's happening,
to the signs.
Yeah, to whatever signs or just intuitions, whatever's happening, kind of go with that. So I wasn't sure what would happen. When my contract ended, I extended for a month to stay with Pierre, and then I left at the end of May. The one thing I didn't want to do was have too much time outside of acute care. So like for my resume, I'd only been a nurse for a few years, so I didn't want to take like a giant ton of time off. So my plan was to go home, go take a travel contract for 13 weeks and then see what happens. So that's what I did. I left Club Med. They tried to get me to stay. They wanted me to go to, I think it was, Kendra was going to Punta Cana. So they were like, you can be with Kendra again. And it was so tempting to be able to do another season with her. But I also had a job lined up in California. So I said, I'm going to do these 13 weeks and then we'll see what happens. And during that 13-week time, Pierre met me in California and we wound up staying together and doing a couple of travel contracts and getting married and a lot of kids later.
Okay. Well, I one last question about Paradise, because I'm legally obligated to ask you if you saw any ghosts because you worked there.
I did not.
Me neither. Darn, we missed out.
Never. And I gotta say, I was walking around at night all the time looking.
Yeah, I think because both you and I were looking, they were like,
oh. Probably they were like, oh, they're
no, F those guys. No, but
right.
Did you know anyone there that did? Like did a Geo recount a story or no?
I don't remember any specific stories, but I do remember people saying yes, absolutely. If they lived in the Grayleaf, said yes. They, heard things, saw things. Jeff Green used to live over there. That's where his room was. So I was always hanging out over there because he was one of my best friends there. My room was on the other side. So I never saw anything. I looked. I didn't
Okay.
see anything.
Okay. Well, I know you mentioned some names already, but I just want to make sure we don't miss anyone. Like, of the people you liked working with, was there anyone we didn't name yet? Like shout outs? Anyone come to mind?
Um, Gosh, I worked with so many people that I loved. And then I still do keep in touch with here and there. From Sandpiper, my closest friends were, of course, Kendra, my friend Debbie, who is also from New York, but she's not on social media, so we've lost touch. Scott Duncan, do you remember him? Scott worked for
Sure.
Club
Scotty
for a
D.
long
Yeah.
time.
Also my first season guest. Yes.
Yes, I love Scott. Haven't he was here in Florida for a while, so we would get together, touch base, go to lunch or whatever. And do have friends out on the other coast too. My friend Jessica lives out on the other coast. My friend Dana lives on the other side of Florida. But
Which
yeah,
day? Which Dana?
gosh, we never worked together.
Was she
Dana
Scuba
was,
Geo? Dana
yes,
Winus?
scuba.
Dana
Yes,
Winus?
yes,
Yeah,
Dana Winus.
Dana.
Yes,
Yeah, well, she
she
was
was.
in Playa with us when you came. She was on the scuba
Yes.
teams. Yeah.
See, I don't go under the water. Things down there want to eat you,
Oh, okay.
but I don't do that.
Got it.
But
Okay.
yeah, so yeah, I met Dana at a reunion way back in Sandpiper.
First, well,
Um,
technically, yeah. I mean, we're
no,
calling it the first one, right? Or I mean, I know people have
right. I
assembled
wasn't at that one though. That first unofficial that wound
in
up becoming the first
2006. Yeah. Well, wait.
or
Were
seven.
you at? Okay, yeah. But then 2008 was Cancun. Was the second one? Were you there?
Yeah, no, my
Oh,
youngest son was born in 2007, so I was in full mommy mode
oh
2007.
wow. Okay.
And then maybe 2010 there was like a smaller reunion
Oh, it was a
in
big one in
Sandpiper.
Cancun. There was a 2010, like, because I went to two, and I've
Was
only been
that
to
the
two,
Cancun one?
2008, yeah, and 2010, both in Cancun. So you weren't at the 2010
Yeah.
Cancun, right?
No, it
Okay.
wasn't. There was a small one. It was over like Super Bowl, just a weekend in Sandpiper, and that was when Scott Duncan used to work for Club Med out there. So Kendra and I went out there, and Rachel was out there, and Jessica was out there, and that's where I met Dana for the first time. And yeah, it was super fun. And then that was the one that we did. It was for we did the cheek swabs, the DNA swabs for leukemia for to find a bone marrow match, and we did it that weekend. Kendra and I, and there were a couple other nurses. That's where I met Angie for the first time too.
Angie Boucher?
Yes,
Oh,
we
okay.
have. We swabbed a bunch of people and sent it off to see if we could find a match. There was a GO who had leukemia, and everybody remembers Super Jim.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, we never did find a match, but that was the hope. So that was what that weekend was focused on. And then, yeah, after I got divorced, we would go to a lot more.
A lot more reunions. Okay. Is there anything, since you still go to Club Med, like, is there anything you miss about it though? Is there one thing? Is there three things?
You know what? Let's be honest. Working anywhere is never as much fun as being on vacation there.
Yes.
So I loved working for Club Med. Best years of my life. I wouldn't change it for anything. Kendra and I have said for years that we were going to retire as au pairs in whatever club would take us. But as a GM vacationing, I've been to way more clubs, and yeah, I
So you
that's
prefer, yeah,
that's a
being
lot
a
of
you
fun.
prefer being
Yeah.
a GM than a Geo, if I'm hearing you
Yes,
correctly,
I
right? Okay.
way prefer being on vacation. Yes, 100%. My daughter says she's going to go to Club Med and work. She came with me to Turks the last time we were there, and she's when she was little, we had done some trips too when the kids were little, and we were in Columbus last summer, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to do this, and we'll see if that happens."
Okay. Does she know what she wants to do?
In life,
No, at the Club Med.
oh, at the
If she
club, you
was,
know what? She's very tech savvy. She creates all sorts of little videos, and she would probably kind of go into that area. She had met Megan when we were in Turks, and she was like, if that's something you want to do, let me know. She's just very creative that way. And she also, Mao, who runs the boutique in Turks, I've known for many, many years. And he was like, if you want to come just for a summer between, you know, classes, school, let me know. And so she tosses around a couple of ideas, but she's currently in a relationship. So
Oh boy.
I don't
Okay.
know. We'll see.
Okay, Sheera, I'd like to try some rapid fire questions with you now. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Favorite crazy sign?
I really enjoyed Agadoo. I don't know why, but it was just fun,
Oh
and I still hear
no.
it in my head.
Oh no, I held you. You were so high up here. Oh. How
I
about
don't
Aga?
know
How
why.
about Aga don't? Okay. Okay. Please say it wasn't for the bum slapping. Okay.
Yeah.
Of all the crazy signs. Okay. All right. Okay. Do you have a favorite like animation passage from like that you did or the animator did or you a group of you did?
Yes, I loved the fruit passage because it's hot and it was just refreshing, and we would be in, well, in Sandpiper you'd be in a crazy costume, I would often be the nanny, but in Paradise we would be like in long flowy perios, and so Caribbean like, and it was just fun. And I always we used to do the pirate wars where everybody would just be hanging out on the beach, and all of a sudden your red and your black teams would come and we would do the flower wars, and then dig up a cooler of beer and everybody hand out a bunch of beers, and it was always fun to see the reactions, and it was fun just to chase each other and throw flour at each other.
Okay, you mentioned
And
this
that was our
this
job.
Well, you mentioned the nanny twice. I let the first one go. So now, since you mentioned it twice, would I be remiss or would I be putting you on the spot if I asked you to do an impression of the nanny, Fran Drescher?
I
Are
couldn't
you
do it if I wanted to. Yeah,
okay? You
I
can't?
really.
Okay. Is that what you're just
Yeah,
saying? You can, you don't
I
want to?
could.
Okay.
I could if my
Okay.
sister was here and we were
Oh,
chatting. The New York comes back,
oh,
but
okay. Got
just
it.
on the go, not so
Oh,
much.
okay.
Yeah.
Darn it. Okay. Do you have a favorite like dumb question? It could be from a GO or GM that where you would get asked a lot or like
It was amazing to me that people didn't understand that being on vacation doesn't make you suddenly not allergic to things, or that you're physically capable of 32 hours of tennis when you sit behind a desk 50 weeks a year.
yes, yes.
Shocking, shocking. And I remember this lovely woman came up to me and she was scratching like her chin and her neck, and she said, I think I'm having allergic reaction. I feel very itchy. My throat feels a little tight. I was like, okay. So we loaded her up with Benadryl. I said, what are you allergic to? She said, well, I'm very allergic to fish. And I said, well, what did you eat? She was like, well, I did have the tuna, but normally, I didn't think it would bother me. We're here. We're in the Bahamas. I was like, tuna is a fish everywhere, everywhere. And she
Boy.
was okay, thankfully, and she didn't die on me, but it was shocking to me that people just lose consciousness on vacation. I don't know what happens.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's a phenomenon. Because
Yeah.
I would sum it up to, I would tell them, I said, look, it's your job to kill yourself this week. It's my job to stop you. Like that's how
Right.
I summed it up,
Yeah.
because doing, like you're saying, they haven't played tennis in 10 years and now they are, like you said, 32 hours on the court, and
Right.
wondering why they can't walk the next day.
Exactly. Yeah. What were you thinking? People would come into the infirmary all the time and ask if we knew when it was going to stop raining. I'd be like, oh, hang on, let me call and see if
Okay,
Mother
so you
Nature.
didn't have a so you didn't okay, so that was yours. Like Fred, we spoke about Freddie. Freddie had the best one I ever heard. When people would ask him like exactly what time it would stop raining, he'd say, "Oh, I'm GO, not God. I don't know."
I don't know. Yeah. I used
Okay.
to say, well, they would come into the infirmary. I'm like, that's all you
Yeah,
wanted was to know
yeah,
when the weather was going to change. And
of
I would
course.
pick up the phone and I'd be like, hello, Mother Nature.
Yeah, because didn't you have to take meteorology courses when you were in nursing school, Sheera? Come on.
It's all a science.
Yeah, yeah. Did you meet any celebrities at any of the resorts?
I
Or
don't
you
think
did
I,
and you didn't know who they were because they were French or Belgian. Okay.
yeah, probably. That's a very real possibility. But I do remember I met a couple of supermodels, but I couldn't tell you what their names were because they would often come to do photo shoots in Paradise. but I don't remember
Did they think you
anyone.
were one? Did they think you were one of them?
Definitely no. No, it was a very, very obvious. I
Well,
am
you
five
mentioned you
one and
were,
a half.
yeah, okay, because I can't tell your height from your photos that you
Yeah.
sent. So, okay, so you're
Yeah.
5'1". Okay. Did you find that of the two seasons you did, was there a magical one, or did you like them both for different reasons? Did you like Sandpiper because it was your first one? Would you?
I loved Sandpiper actually. They were both magical completely. It was just at that particular point in my life, I really needed a reset, a lot of healing, a lot of, sometimes things get thrown at you and it's like everything feels like it's falling apart. In my experience, if I just pull the rug out from under myself, everything will right side up. And I've done that a number of times. And each time in the 30 some odd years since I did Club Med, I would usually wind up back at Club Med, just with friends, meeting new friends. And that's kind of my happy place. I reset and go on the next
Excellent.
adventure.
Cool. Hey, Sheera, we are coming to the end of our time here. Now, since you were a nurse, and I have to know, and I'm sure you've watched them, do you have a favorite medical drama? Is it Grey's Anatomy? Was it ER? What do you have one?
Actually, probably all of them at different points. I loved ER back in the day. Who
Which
doesn't want
one?
to look
Which
at
one was
George
the more?
Clooney?
Which one was the more realistic? Like, are there really McDreamies that look like that in the
No,
hospital?
God, no,
Okay.
absolutely no.
God,
No, I'm
no.
also in
Okay.
women's health, so they're all female. They're
Okay.
mostly females.
Oh, that's true. Okay. So have you seen every season of Grace?
Probably twice.
Oh, whoa,
Well,
really?
not the
Whoa.
most current ones. Like I haven't
Okay.
watched them forever. I really don't watch a lot of TV. I can't. I turn it on, I fall asleep. It creates
My
narcolepsy.
my niece one year or started binging it because it was on Netflix, and all I heard was crying whenever I came over, and I'm like, "What is going on up there?" So yeah, apparently the show tugs on the
Very
heartstrings. I'm guessing. Okay, okay, all right, okay. Last question. Looking at your life now, and you're going back, I'm guessing that you don't regret trying Club Med. You're glad you called 1-800 Club Med that day and flew down and had your interview, right?
absolutely no regrets. It was an excellent choice at the time. There have been times I regretted not finishing my master's when I was set out to do it, but I have no regrets. I loved my experience in Club Med and I have made so many friends, and that soul family continues to grow. And I did meet somebody. We have great kids and I have two grandsons now.
Well, they say like you get your kids, right? Your kids are your treasures
Yeah.
now, right? I mean, if you didn't do
Yep.
that, you
Yeah.
wouldn't have them, right? So,
Yeah, for sure. And we did have a lot of years that we traveled together, and it all was part of what led us to today. So
well, awesome. Well, Sheera, I'm really happy that I was really skeptical to reach out to you again because I can only take so much rejection. I mean, I took a lot in Club Med, as you know, but I'm so happy that you said yes this time, and I'm really sorry about your foot, but if it led to this, okay, and I'm a little
that's
bit happy.
well, I hope you don't regret
No, no. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your story with us,
it.
Sheera. It's awfully kind of you.
My pleasure. Thank you. And hopefully someday we'll actually meet in person.
Yes, yes, I would love that. Would you like to take us out and thank everyone for listening?
Yes, thank you everybody. I'm in call Greg.
Yes, if you're interested. So it wasn't so bad, right, Sheera? Like, tell them it wasn't so bad, right?
No, no, it wasn't so bad.
Okay, let's have you work on Jeff Green, two-time MVP, please.
Yes,
Just say,
for sure.
just call Greg, Jeff. Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna message him right now.
Thank you. All right, everyone. That was the one, the only Sheera Ashely, and we'll see you all next week. Bye. Say bye, Sheera.